thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to present. As you can hear, my accent does not foretell that I'm from this area at all. We're truly a global company. We're Jersey-based, and I want to tell you the story behind the company, my journey towards this, why we're listed in London, and what I hope becomes an opportunity for you to appreciate, understand, and potentially invest. So, IX Net Zero. What is IX in the first place? We understand, you're familiar with the term net zero, and it's the ability for companies, for countries to focus on the ability to decarbonize and in 2030 potentially get to net zero on carbon to reduce that. IX is more of a function or a formula. It's the I and the X, it's the impact of your investment in your life, and we all have to look at that. We all have to understand what our investments do, because our approach is you can invest your capital for top-tier returns, but you can do it intentionally in areas that can accomplish things. And my whole career has been in the investment business. I actually worked with a Glasgow-based firm in the 1990s. I came to IX from Lazard as an investment banking firm, and as you would call it here, Lazards. And it is truly the opportunity to see something changing with the next generation of financiers, investors, and people who look at their capital. I'm not here to change the capital markets. I'm here to leverage them, use my experience and my colleagues to create sustainable finance for the next generation. And with that in mind, I'm going to play a video for what we think is possible. I'm not here to talk about gloom and doom and to make anybody feel guilty about anything. I'm here to talk about what we can do with our investments, how you can make real returns with being intentional and investing in technologies and companies and people that will change what we do today, how we live our lives, and how we're enabling that decarbonization. So IX Net Zero was founded 7 years ago Co-founders include a very good friends of mine, Trevor Nielsen, Howard W. Buffett, that's Warren's grandson. Now, Warren doesn't call me up every morning for stock tips, but if you look at what Howard does, he's an academic. He studied at Columbia, which is kind of interesting. His grandfather studied at Columbia doing value investing, and he teaches a course there called social value investing, which really answers this big question. How do we solve these things, the big intractable problems that are out there? Government alone can't do it. Philanthropy, even at the level of the Buffetts and the Gates, can't do it. It's capital deployed intentionally, leveraging the capital system. That's what can do it, and that's why we're founded. We're not a fund, we're a permanently capitalized holding company. We focus on these areas of intense issues that can be solved. We are committed to the opportunity to create these companies, to be independent, to be transparent, and that's why we came to the London Stock Exchange. We have the Right Honourable Nick Hurd, who was the first climate minister in the UK, as our chair. We have 40 significant single-family offices around the globe from 12 countries that invested and trusted their capital to us to build this company. And we came to London to list because it is the center of ESG and impact, and democratizing the access to these institutional quality private returns. We achieved the London Stock Exchange Green Economy mark, and we've achieved a significant multiple on the capital that has been given to us. So what have we done with that capital? We've created a company that's focused on energy transition and sustainability in the built environment. Think about green real estate, as the video pointed out, and the opportunity to lower the greenhouse gas emissions, make healthier buildings, and transform the way things are built today. And sustainability in the built environment also is about affordability. So Wastefuel is our largest holding. Wastefuel is a company that's focused on sustainable transportation fuels. We have two areas we're working in now: sustainable aviation fuel, where we're building a biorefinery, and think about transforming our waste, municipal waste, agricultural waste, into fuels. It's an unlimited supply, and it has carbon. And if we can change the molecules and use them again, which is possible, we can. Our investors and partners in this company are, number one, in the sustainable aviation fuel, NetJets. They committed to buy 100 million gallons from us in a plant we're building in the Philippines with a group called Prime Infrastructure. Last year, we announced that Maersk, the largest shipping company in the world, is an investor in our company, Wastefuel. Maersk is decarbonizing their shipping by utilizing green biomethanol, which is we're creating with agricultural waste. Simple process. We're taking agricultural waste using anaerobic digestion with bugs that go in there and create the green biomethanol. You see it happen in landfills, where all of a sudden you've got off gases coming out of it. We're doing that, cleaning it, and Maersk has built 24 ships. They've commissioned them. They need this fuel all around the world. They're an investor in our company, and this is changing. You know why? Because people that are the consumers of Nike, Amazon, IKEA, they're all saying, I want my goods to have a lower carbon footprint. Nike did a study and they said, what would it cost if we had a zero emissions sustainable supply chain? And they componentized it for the shipping, because everything they ship is in a container. 8 cents per pair of trainers. Now, my kids will pay that. I'll pay it for them, but my kids will pay that. The consumer is driving this demand, and it's happening at large scale. We invested in a company called Carbon Engineering, which is direct air capture. It's the ability to take carbon out of the atmosphere, turn it into viable, usable, economically incented products. Just think of the oil and gas industry. They take fracking and they put carbon dioxide in the ground to extract energy, mostly natural gas in some of the areas. This company, one of their installations can remove 1 million tons of carbon a year. That's 40 million trees, the capacity of 40 million trees. We could never plant enough trees to accomplish what we need to as a planet. Our partners here are the Gates family, Chevron, Oxy Low Carbon Ventures. Oxy Low Carbon Ventures announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to build in excess of 27 of these plants in the Permian Basin in the US, and they're going to suck the carbon out of the air, create CO2, inject it into the wells, permanently capture it, and create a greener approach to extracting molecules from the ground. It's a real technology. There's real investors behind this. And I believe the energy companies are the ones that have the capital, the pipes, the infrastructure to do this at scale, to change the way we use energy at scale. We have a company called Emphas. We listed a company on the New York Stock Exchange last October, and we raised $345 million, okay, with partners like Alberta Investment Management, Blackstone, big investment firm. You know, you can go down the line, they're institutional investors. We're buying in-the-ground assets in Latin America to create the largest company that is wind and solar in Latin America. We've got a great team behind us. You can look at that stock, it's trading, and we're in the process of acquisitions. We have a company called Context Labs, founded by a 3-time serial entrepreneur that invested $18 million of his own money before we got in the company. It's based in Boston. They go out and they can capture 100,000 data points to understand the carbon emissions from a building, from energy installations, and all that, because there's regulation out there that industry has to comply with. And it's the Wild West. They get thermal imaging, they get satellite imagery, they create a data fabric for companies. When they launched, our investors side by side with us were Equinor, which is kind of the old Statoil in Norway. Their fund, if you would, for impact and ESG. KPMG is our co-investor. The big one, does anybody remember T. Boone Pickens, the oil bear? He was a raider in the 80s in oil. Well, his heirs look at it a little bit different. They were the largest investor in this company, Context Labs. A month after we closed the investment, Williams, which is the largest pipeline company in North America, gave them a multi-million-dollar contract over 3 years to measure the carbon output of every pipeline, of every natural gas and other installation they had for processing. Why is that important? Because they sell it as decarbonization as a service. Finally, we have 2 real estate companies, and one of them is called Multigreen. We co-founded that with one of our family offices. We're building attainable and sustainable, tech-enabled multifamily housing in markets where firemen, police, teachers, nurses, they work but they can't afford to live. The returns are phenomenal. To the investors, it's not a fund. We have 1,100 units under construction today in a 2.5-year period. Real estate is the core of most people's portfolio. We have a company called Sustainable Living Innovations. I'll show you a video at the end about what they do. They're changing the way we build housing, the way we build apartments. They are building in Seattle today, and Dmitri and myself have been in the building. They're building the first zero net energy building, high-rise apartment complex. This is it. Certified globally in the world. It produces more energy than it actually consumes. The tenants have zero cost for their utilities. It's exciting that this can be done. This company is 14 years old, and we're their partner. and we're working very closely with them to bring this technology, panelized construction, steel panels, to other areas of the world where our investors, these global family offices, have a footprint in the real estate business, in the property development business. Now, very quickly, here are some of our partners. These are institutional quality investors in our companies. The massive need for private capital over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. This is a chart from the International Energy Agency, where $2.5 trillion have to be spent in capital to decarbonize economies. And it has to go up to 5 trillion, or 4.5 times the global, 4.5% of the global GDP, to even accomplish a goal like getting to net zero. I don't know if we'll get there, but capital follows opportunity. And as the systems change, and as your and my children spend their money, invest their money, they're going to change this. And I just want to be there to help the next generation to have long-term investments to accomplish this. Now, everybody comes from someplace, right? Now, I mentioned that I worked in Glasgow. I grew up in a town called Youngstown, Ohio, which is in northeast Ohio. It's a steel town. It's kind of like the Glasgow of the Midwest. It's because I recognized right away, now Glasgow has come back. I was there in the 90s. But the reality is that there's a lot of industrial pollution and really things that in the US we struggle with. And I was, a young person, and it shaped who I am, and it shapes the investments. And when Bruce Springsteen sings a sad song about your town, you know that something, is profoundly affecting it. I was there as a teenager when the Cuyahoga River, just north of me outside of Cleveland, you could throw matches in it and it would catch on fire. So this is a real, tangible, visceral thing to me. And I saw the devastation in communities I lived in. Somebody asked me once, what's the simplest investment I can make to help climate change? Well, I think it's real estate. Why? Because 40% of the greenhouse gases, the emissions that go into the air every year, are from the construction and the built environment. It's the fuel, it's the way that cement, concrete is created. It's all the things across the ability to build the materials, to construct them, how it's done. And if we can lower that, we can do that. Anybody here invested in real estate? Okay, it's the core of my portfolio, right? The reality is, I'm not telling you to do anything different. I'm telling you to find a company like ours that has invested in real estate, that is getting top-tier returns, but they're doing it with an intentionality and a measurement of what can be done to reduce carbon, to have affordability, and all the things that we believe make a good investment at the end of the day. Okay? And finally, I'll show you one of those investments, and then we'll open it up to question. We have to build things differently. We have to have different fuels. We have to change the way we, do everything within the supply chain. I'm not saying we have to live our lives in the Stone Ages. I'm just saying that technology and the use of capital, if we look out 3 years, 5 years, 7, 10, we're going to be doing things differently. The fuel in our cars is going to be different. You're going to be driving electric or hydrogen cars. We're going to be building buildings like these that are zero net energy. People are going to be buying products and asking, what's the supply chain? What's the energy and carbon footprint of what I bought? And companies will respond. That's what we're in the center of. And here's an example of what is possible today.
Things just take too long, too inefficient. Our industry has said for the last 75 years, there should be a way to manufacture a building, but no one's been able to pull it off. How do you make parts in a manufactured environment that can be assembled in the field as a building. That was the direction we chose, and it's turned out to be the right choice. The acoustics, the fire, the mechanical systems, the electrical systems, every system that's required in an apartment is manufactured on that panel in our factory as a fully integrated part. That's never been done.
It's a straightforward kit of parts that go together in the field. It's simple, it's repeatable. SLI's technology allows us to take that and transfer it to other markets.
An apartment wall that's built in the field can take months. In the SLI factory, we've manufactured all the components, and that same wall can be assembled in an hour.
Conventional buildings take months, if not years, to get to costing and schedule. Because we have a catalog of parts, I'm able to drag and drop those same units and pieces and design an SLI building in a matter of hours. There's no comparison.
We are the only complete building system ever patented in the United States of America.
SLI has a patent portfolio consisting of 165 patents from all around the world.
At full capacity, our Tacoma factory will employ 60 people. That will allow us to build a 120-unit apartment every month.
Much like a car going down an assembly line, our panel system goes down an assembly line. We're cleaner, safer, and faster.
Their supply chain feeds their factory, feeds their panels, feeds their buildings, feeds their crews who go out and build it on site and hand the keys to the owner. That's a very different model and a very different paradigm than the traditional construction paradigm.
We've been waiting to celebrate this for a long time. This building is 100% electric, powered by solar power. You could not build this building in a traditional way.
303 Battery, an SLI project that we're invested in, is the world's first net zero energy multifamily tower. Their solutions are reality, and more sustainable buildings are coming out of the ground as we speak.
This is going to change construction, and that doesn't happen very often.
And that's just the beginning. This building has 5,000 internet data points in it. That data will allow us to improve our products, improve our systems, and do even better.
This project, 303 Battery, is leading the way to a net zero future for multifamily housing.
The built environment is one of the biggest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. When we looked at SLI's materials and process, we knew right away that their environmental performance was transformational.
SLI's technology allows us to build some of the highest performing, lowest GHG or greenhouse gas buildings in the world.
We're talking about being able to build our infrastructure in an entirely different way. Again, in an industry that hasn't changed a lot and is ripe for change and ripe for disruption. And I think the timing is tremendous for SLI.
The people that work here, people that buy our buildings, the people that live in our buildings, they all should be better off because of what we do. That's our hope. Our technology makes a new way of living possible. Our buildings are beautiful, filled with natural light, providing access to the outdoors. Tenants love the SLI living experience. We're not just an idea or a notion. We're a growing technology company that is changing the way buildings are designed, developed, and delivered.
The opportunity to list here and provide access for investors in what we believe is the key and central market for people that want to invest in technology and growth companies like we represent. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any questions for Stephen, please? Here we are. Thank you.
Good evening. I was surprised to see you didn't have any hydrogen in your energy mix, because I thought hydrogen is one of the net zero sort of candidates for shipping.
I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. I was surprised you didn't have hydrogen in one of your alternative fuel, because I thought hydrogen was a good one.
We didn't make that choice. Maersk did. There are other companies looking at hydrogen. It's a volatile, you have to have pressurized tanks and other things. They'll solve that, and I believe they will, but this is the simplest, most direct path. You're going to see, we're looking at hydrogen. You're going to see it in cars. China has massive hydrogen installations. We'll see it here. It's just the technology in the shipbuilding, the dual fuel shipbuilding, just hasn't got there yet, but I guarantee it will. And there's room for massive change there.
Can I just clarify a couple of points, please? So by investing in IX, you then get access to this underlying portfolio of investments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is IX fully invested, or do you have money left to make
We
new
have
investments?
some money left over, and our idea is that we're catalytic capital to come into these companies, and then our families and other institutions come in and invest with us at scale. So when you invest in the holding company, you're investing in all these companies, and you're joined by some, excuse me, some of the investors that I mentioned before. Excuse me.
And as such, the underlying portfolio of companies that you're invested in, are they all private, or is there a mix of public and private? You mentioned
Mix
one that
of
was
public
listed.
and private. Emphas is a publicly listed company in the New York Stock Exchange. Many of these companies are pre-IPO. SLI is a 14-year-old company, and we've told this in our prospectus, their next step is the public markets when they open. When that is the logical conclusion, just given the scale of that company.
Any other questions, please? I've got a couple more otherwise. Gentleman towards the back here, please. Chris?
You're obviously interested in hydrogen. Are you involved in fusion technology?
Say again?
Are you invested in fusion technology?
I'm glad you asked that question. I'll be in Montreal. Did we talk before? I'll be in Montreal after London looking at a company called Fuse Energy, which is fusion at, not just small scale fusion, but producing isotopes without the side effects of the radioactive materials that have to be, in the long term, disposed of and worked on. This company is already producing isotopes, which can be used in the medical field, and I really believe that fusion is one of the, you have to have all of the above. And it's not just a science project anymore. There are companies that are getting to commercial level, but it's going to take governments and investors to give the clear path, because you remember 3 Mile Island didn't do so well for our nuclear industry. But I will tell you, watch for a movie coming out by Oliver Stone with a positive spin on fusion and the future of nuclear. Look, if we can put our sailors on nuclear submarines and nuclear aircraft carriers and deem it safe, why can't we power our homes with it?
Any other questions, please? A gentleman here, please, Chris.
Where do your technical people get sourced from to analyse these companies? Because obviously you need chemical engineers, turbine engineers,
absolutely,
metallurgical engineers, etc.
This is where our partners are critically important. The team, for example, in Memphis, that is evaluating all of these companies with the existing wind and solar in Latin America, they've got a 20-year track record. They've deployed $5 billion in capital and 20% IRRs, investment rate of returns over that time, with no losses. In Buenos Aires, Argentina, they have 15 people on their staff, many who are engineers. We're on the ground evaluating those things. In our company, Waste Fuel, Dmitri, I think they're up to 30 people now. We have one of the top energy people that came out of Houston with Exxon and all that evaluates at the front end. We have a COO there that has built 17 biorefineries and built $1 billion company with his colleagues.
Excuse me, who was the man from Exxon? From Exxon.
Mario de la Osa. The other person is Jeff Briggs, and he built companies. They have engineers on staff. We also are connected with universities and others who ultimately, we can draw on those resources, and that's just 2 of our businesses.
Thank you.
And what's your typical investment size?
Pardon?
Your typical investment size when you're making an investment in one of these companies?
So just publicly, we've got $4 to $5 million invested in the waste fuel business. We just invested recently again in that business. We have in the Emphas business, we're going to be at close to $5 million. We're from 500,000 as a toehold to $5 million of our own capital. And this is a 7-year-old company, and we've raised multiple rounds as a private company. We raised 10.7 million pounds in February. I got to tell you, we couldn't have picked the worst time to list. If you would have given me the memo on Vladimir Putin and what was going to go on, you know, we'll see. But we raised enough capital, and the key to our success is we've been able to raise capital into the companies without diluting the holding company at the right valuations and have investors come in consistently at higher valuations. Just a quick example of that, when Maersk invested in waste fuel, this is literally 14 months ago, when they invested, waste fuel did 133 million post in their round, okay? We own 37.3% of that company today. The value of that investment, based on last year's round, is greater than the market cap of our company today. There's a little bit of an opportunity for people to look at our company, you know, relative to how the market's hammered growth companies and anything that has anything to do with green right now. But we're here for the long term.